Hello everybody, this is Tyler here once again from the Character Workshop, and put down your pens, your pencils, your quills, whatever you write with. We got some very big news going on in the Doctor Who community. I didn't think this guy would ever come back, especially since he's been gone from YouTube for almost a year. But, like the cockroach he is, he decided to not stay down and decided to come back. And this is the most racist fan in Doctor Who community. And if you guys don't know who I'm talking about already, it's Bowlestrek. Bowlestrek has decided to show his racist face back onto YouTube. Which heavily surprised me. I thought, after the announcement of Shudigawa over here as the next Doctor, after David Tennant, of course, I thought he would have just decided to give up. But nope, he's not. And unfortunately, he is back. And you know what? I was going to do another Doctor Who review. I was going to review the Romans today, but I decided to, hold off that episode for now, because I feel like this is more important, and I would have never known about this if you guys seen this recommended video right here. I would have never known about Bowlestrek's return if it wasn't for Mr. TARDIS, who, literally a couple days ago, as I'm recording this, he did his own response to, I'm assuming this video, but I don't know. I haven't watched Mr. TARDIS' video, because I want to avoid spoilers for this video as much as possible. So I will definitely be watching this video after I'm done with my version, so definitely will give the Mr. TARDIS one a watch. I definitely, especially love Mr. TARDIS' commentaries on Bowlestrek. He basically, tears Bowlestrek a new one in, kind of the nicest way possible. A bit nicer than me, for an example. But, anyways, with all that introduction out of the way, we're going to be looking at Bowlestrek's most recent video from 12 days ago as I am recording this. Yes, I am recording this on April 20th. However, this episode's probably going to be uploaded much later. Don't know when. Maybe I'll save this episode for, the 4-year anniversary of UK from England. I don't know. But anyways, and just knowing who I'm talking about, I'm probably not going to have too many ads on it. But anyways, sorry for all the rambling. Let's actually look at Bowlestrek's video. The current disastrous state of Doctor Who, and let us see what very good things he's got to say about it. 3, 2, 1, go.
I thought I was done with this crap. 1 year.
And I thought you were too, and I honestly wish you were done with it, but nope. You decided to have a reason to come back. That's absolutely fantastic. I'm not sure if this video is loud enough. I'm going to turn up the volume a little bit, so I don't know if it's good on your guys' end, but anyway.
1 year of mainly ignoring Doctor Who and everything associated with it, and it was glorious, and has done wonders for my blood pressure. My opinion on the show has not changed, and my opinion on the upcoming RTD era has not changed. I got called every name in the book, and then some, when I stated that it would just be more of the same, just better written. I was done with the culture war, and wanted to go on to do other things. I was happy just sitting in the background, laughing at the head-scratchingly idiotic stories that came out. I was one of those that would have had very little interest in RTD2 anyway, even if it wasn't
I know it's not a part of the video, but thanks for ruining the video, police car, ambulance, fire truck, whatever you are. I'm glad I'm not going to be here much longer. I'm in the dorms, in case you guys are wondering. I'm filming this video in the dorms. Only a few more weeks until I graduate, so that's good. Won't have to deal with that anymore.
Shaping up the way it seems to. The last 5 years have left a permanently sour taste in my mouth, and I now refuse to recognize anything after 1996. It was the asinine, elitist pomposity of practically everybody currently involved with this franchise that spurred me to come back. For now. What most people think started around 2015 and completely took over in 2018 was pretty much there from the beginning. By this I mean 2005, but it was much more subtle. Hindsight is always 20/20, as they say. RTD did have an agenda, but it wasn't front and center. His main focus seemed to be on creating or recreating a great show. But if you look at the sequence of events over the nearly 2 decades that followed, it was clear from the beginning where things were going. And we didn't look at this kind of stuff in 2005 and 2006 anyway. The world was a much better place and much more accepting of everyone back then. Now it's a world where groups...
At least you thought so. Honestly, what you said right there, oh, the world was a lot more accepting, that's very contradictory, because, back in 2005, there weren't as many people that were, very, supportive of, gay or LGBT people as a whole, and trans people as well. I don't know what you're referring to, Bowlestrek. I don't know. If anything, nowadays, we're a bit more accepting for people like that. Unless you're just referring to, I don't know, you saying, oh, like, stuff wasn't woke back then. That's my guess.
That are deemed marginalized are given supervillain powers to destroy you if you so much as look at them the wrong way. They have become a protected class in the worst way possible, the same way other classes were in the past. But this little fact seems to fly over their heads. Or perhaps it doesn't. Let's just say most of them are not very nice people. Time for a disclaimer. Some people ask why I often use disclaimers in my videos, and the answer is quite simple. Taking people out of context is a bit of a problem lately. Many do it intentionally for their own grifting purposes, while others do it because they lack the intelligence to properly contextualize anything anyway, and regardless, they're all too obsessed with the message because modern day brainwashing and narcissism—
Alright, just to go off topic, what the fuck is that right behind William Hartnell? Is that like a off-brand Mickey Mouse? Anyways, sorry for pointing that out, moving on.
is definitely a thing. Some of them also benefit directly from the message because the concept of earning anything in this world has long since gone out the window. That's why I'm still debating identifying as a carrot. Now where's my money? There's nothing wrong with creating content for certain groups, as long as it's legal, and well, this show is pushing that line too lately in a very creepy way. More on that later. But back to my main point. Take as an example the recent film Bros. This was directed, or should have been directed, at a very small audience, and the budget should have reflected that. Instead, $22 million was spent on this, and that number doesn't take into account marketing. How the hell did this cost $22 million? Blumhouse can make great horror films, and many not very good horror films, for less than $5 million, and you spent $22 million on this. What did the—
Okay, first of all, what the hell does this have to do with Doctor Who? Secondly, so what if this movie costed $22 million? Like, you probably don't even know, like, what really goes into making movies or anything like that. Obviously, you gotta get, the rights to, like, be able to film at places, because I'll bet you anything, like, filming at a particular location is not very cheap. It costs money, The people who probably own the lands want to, earn revenue from, you filming on their property, I haven't seen Bros, but I'm not sure, like, what locations they did for this movie, but, I mean, if it's $22 million, I'll bet you anything it's, like, $22 million worth of, like, shooting and whatnot. And also, the casting in there, too, like, keep in mind, like, the money isn't just, like, for making the film, it's also for, like, paying for, like, the actors, the directors, writers, producers, costume designers, the camera crew, light crew, like, a lot goes into making movies, and, I've taken, a few film classes, and, in general, lighting classes in college, and I kind of know this kind of stuff that goes into it.
effects budget spiral out of control? Then, of course, the film only made $14 million globally and became a bit of a financial disaster. It didn't help that the usual suspects decided to insult their potential viewers, because that's always worked so well in the past. Nothing makes somebody want to consume your product like calling them a bigot. Had the people behind this film not been complete asshats, and the film had a reasonable budget, received a limited release, or perhaps gone straight to streaming, then we wouldn't be having this discussion. It's not your film or the subject matter that got people pissy, contrary to what many people claim. This isn't—
Alright, I'm trying to, like, wrap my head around what Bowlestrek's trying to refer to when talking about this film's, like, budget versus, how much money it actually made. And kind of comparing it to, like, is he trying to make, like, some sort of, like, woke statement here? Because I don't know what he's trying to do with this. I'm not sure if, the fact that this movie only made, like, $14 million worldwide had anything to do with, this whole, like, woke thing that you're talking about. Like, I don't know, it could just be poor marketing. I don't know how much marketing this movie had, but maybe it just didn't do well enough for, like, people to be interested in watching this movie. I don't know. And keep in mind, you did say worldwide. You didn't specify, like, how much this made here in the U.S., or, oh wait, that's right, you're from Canada. I don't know what I'm talking about. But, but, like, there's, like, keep in mind, this film probably wasn't released, in a lot of countries, compared to some, like, I don't know, a Marvel movie or Star Wars movie, which, almost every country gets those movies, and those movies make, like, billions of dollars. So, gotta keep that in mind, too.
1955 anymore. No, you created your own problem by acting like 5-year-olds and not understanding the scope of your potential audience. But what we're talking—
Acting like the 5-year-old, sound familiar?
Talking about in this video isn't an original work, is it? We've spent the last 6 or so years talking about the hijacking of every IP in sight for ideological purposes, with Doctor Who being one of the early casualties. There's a saying called jumping the shark. You may have heard it. It refers to a moment when a franchise has reached its peak and starts a noticeable...
Here's the thing about Doctor Who, though. And I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this phrase, too. Jumping the shark. You know, it originated from Happy Days. It's a term generally associated with, like, you know, TV shows and media, like, going downhill after a certain point. But the thing about Doctor Who, and I brought this up in my previous commentary as well. I did rewatch my previous commentary on this prior to filming for this one. But the thing about Doctor Who, it's been going on for 60 years right now. And it has had, like, so many different versions of the characters, so many different writers, different directors, different companions, different everybody. Like, one era may be bad, but there's a good chance the next era will be, like, even better. You know, it'll be able to, like, you know, jump back. Like, people have criticized, like, the 80s era of Doctor Who, and people said, like, that show kind of went, like, downhill. But, like, it wasn't until, like, the show was brought back in 2005 when people's interest in the show came back, and, you know, it's back to being a worldwide phenomenon, if not more of a worldwide phenomenon than it was back during the classic era. So, like I said, Doctor Who, it's a constantly changing show. One era could be bad, but there could be, like, so many eras that come afterwards. Like, Bowlestrek, you clearly don't know what you're talking about.
Decline, or when a show has become so far removed from what it was originally intended to be that it's barely recognizable from what it once was. The decline in quality for New Who began in the Moffat years, although I personally thought his first season was New Who's best, and then it jumped the shark completely in 2017 when it announced a certain casting choice, although it would be more than a year before the ramifications of this would become fully apparent. Then, in 2020, Chibs the Destroyer rewrote the show's entire backstory.
Oh, well, back to an old Bowlestrek favorite, calling people childish names. We went from Chibs the Idiot to Chibs the Destroyer, which... yeah, definitely not as, you know, childish sounding as his previous nickname for Chris Chibnall, but still, just his idea of, like, you know, kind of naming these actors and directors and writers and whatnot is just, you know, kind of childish. Like, you know, it's like childish name calling, you know, when you're a 5-year-old, and basically, like, somebody, like, took your toy, like, oh, take that back, you, toy stealer, something like that. I don't know, I'm just... That's kind of the comparison I see, you know, Bowlestrek. Anyways, moving on. Sorry for my rambling.
For the purposes of the message. Then it was announced that RTD was coming back, and many thought this would be hitting the reverse button on all that shark jumping. But I, and many others, were not fooled for a second. We had seen the hateful bile that had come...
mind telling me who those others are, Bowlestrek? Mind giving out names, sources, maybe? Because I would like to know.
Out of RTD's mouth in recent years. We knew what the BBC was all about now. We knew that the show had been poisoned at every level, and RTD wasn't going to change this. Again, nobody is saying that this content shouldn't exist, except the stuff that should be illegal, and you're a moron if you don't know what I'm talking about, so please don't put words in my mouth. But you will...
Okay, you're going on a topic of, like, illegal, like, where's this gonna be going? Oh boy.
Well, anyway, so what's the point of even saying this? This is not what Doctor Who was ever about. Simpletons will say, but it's always been progressive. Not like this it wasn't. Good science fiction.
Bullshit, Bowlestrek. Yes, it was. For a variety of reasons. Maybe not so much, like, on camera, but, like, behind the scenes. Like, you know, something I brought up in my previous commentary on your video. The fact that in the 80s they were considering having, you know... actually, no, twice they were considering in the 80s having the next Doctor be female. One time was after Tom Baker, and I believe the other time was, like, after, Colin Baker, I believe, because I think, with David Tennant coming back as the 14th Doctor, apparently this wasn't the first time they were considering bringing a previous actor back to play another incarnation of the Doctor, because I believe after Colin Baker, they were considering having Troughton come back as the Doctor. My god, that noise outside's really pissing me off. Anyways, they were considering having Troughton come back as the Doctor after Colin Baker, but... And I think afterwards they were going to have, like, I guess a female take over as Troughton. I don't know. And plus, not only that, I don't know if you've heard about this bullshit, but there have been, like, various previous Doctor Who actors that have, you know, have supported the idea of, like, the Doctor being a female, you know. Colin Baker especially being supportive, Sylvester McCoy, Tom Baker. Peter Davison's opinion got a little bit of a mixed reaction, but yeah, he was in support of it. So many of the other actors from the show were very supportive of Whittaker's casting, so yeah.
Like Doctor Who or classic Trek, look at an issue from multiple perspectives, and often let the viewer decide which is the right side and which is the wrong. And it didn't tackle the same issue over and over again. It didn't take one side, completely ignore the other side of the argument, and say anybody that disagrees with their side is not welcome in fandom and is the worst of humanity. Checks and balances were put in place, but those don't exist anymore. This wasn't your show to completely remake to appeal to only a small percentage of the population. And even within that small percentage, only a small percentage even want anything to do with it. The rest can see exactly what you're doing and are having none of it. But then, now it seems to have narrowed to focusing on material that only appeals to a small fraction of that percentage anyway. It wasn't just what was...
And once again, you're not listening to any citation. This is all, conspiracy theory shit. Like I've said in the previous video, you're just there with your tinfoil hat, doing all this kind of stuff. I wouldn't be surprised if you look like that in real life. Tinfoil hat and everything.
On screen that was pissing us off. It was the outright contempt for long-term fans and replacing them with a bunch of fake activists. The BBC has always been elitist, but what we're seeing now is on a completely different level. The advent of social media hasn't helped their image much either, but there is a difference between then and now. The BBC used to make some of the best television programming in the world. What we were forced to sit through in North America, especially sitcoms, seemed inferior by comparison. Their documentaries were brilliant, and even though they thumbed their noses at science fiction, they created some of the best sci-fi franchises in history. Even less than 10 years ago, most of the television I watched was British, and it was quite frustrating that I had to resort to other means to see it because it wasn't on DVD or carried on any channel in my area. Things are quite different now in 2023. What used to make some of the best programming in the world now makes unwatchable bile. What used to employ...
At least unwatchable bile in your opinion. That's something that, you don't always bring up in your videos, it may not be good for you, but, other people, love the Whittaker era. I personally am not a super big fan of it, probably because I haven't seen the whole entire era. I still haven't seen Flux, or Eve of the Daleks, or Legend of the Sea Devils, but, it has its fans. I remember seeing a video, I believe it was a year ago, of a fan convention full of, just Whittaker, fans, and they were all cosplaying as her, and, kind of celebrating, her as the Doctor. You, Mr. Bowlestrek, may not think that, she's a doctor, but she is, a doctor to them. And, I think I gotta, keep quoting what, Colin Baker said, literally in his first story as the Doctor. I am the Doctor, whether you like it or not, bitch. I'm just kidding, he didn't say bitch, but, yeah.
Some of the best creatives in the industry has replaced them with incompetent and untalented woke activists. Anybody that's still around...
Trying to roast the people who work on the show, it's very nice of you, Bowlestrek. I'm sure any of them who watch this video will probably appreciate those words.
From the old days has had to sell their soul for the sake of the message, and apparently they threw their talent out the window. Either that, or they just don't care anymore. Even if you weren't being hit on the head with a spiked hammer with a message, the scripts were terrible. Cast can't act, directors don't know how to direct, and...
Okay, first of all, you probably have not, watched these episodes in their entirety, but, I gotta say, in my opinion, the Whittaker era was, one of the most, beautifully shot Doctor Who, eras ever. The cinematography on it is gorgeous. Say what you will about, Whittaker as the Doctor and, the quality of the writing in some ways, but, you can't admit that, the visuals look absolutely stunning, Even down to, the show's intro. I love the Whittaker era, intro, I will say. But yeah, I don't know what you're talking about, man.
Effects people seem to be at the level of first-year graphic art students from 1997. One of the things that stood out to me about the Chibs era, beyond the message, was just how terrible everything looked and sounded. Soft focus, almost...
No, it sounds pretty good, actually. Cinematography-wise, I don't know what you're talking about with it looking pretty bad, but, I don't think it looked bad, or even sounded bad either,
to the point of being out of focus. Color correction that looked like it was done by somebody who suffers from color blindness. A horrible soundtrack that sounded like the hands of a 5-year-old mashing their fingers on a keyboard. And if you claim the composer was anything less than a musical genius, then you were a candidate for cancellation. There was a phenomenon that was always present in fandom from the time the show came back. A small group of fake activists, and worse, slowly wormed their way in over the course of a decade. Unfortunately, after everything went to hell in 2018, they were able to completely take over fandom. This was partly because so many had just walked away from the show, but mainly because anybody that wasn't part of this group and didn't wholeheartedly accept the message would be ostracized. You would be banned from forums.
Sources, Bowlestrek. I need sources. Give them to me. Give them to me. Better DM me. I will gladly give you my email address for you to like give me any proof that these people are doing what you're claiming they're doing. Come on, give it to me. Come here, boy. Come on, give me the proof. Give me the fucking proof. Give me the fucking proof, you bitch.